Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much, Jocelyn. And hello, Comic-Con! Woo! I'm so excited to be here with you all tonight and to talk about the one thing that brings us all together, musicals. Okay, so let's get this party started. Charlie, I'd love to start with you.
Yep.
A Strange Loop is a smash hit on Broadway right now, and everyone loved and was obsessed and is obsessed with Moulin Rouge, the musical, which you won a Tony Award for. Congratulations! Woo! Let's dive into A Strange Loop. First, as the orchestrator, what does your role entail? And what was the collaboration process like with playwright Michael R. Jackson?
Yeah, wow. Well, first of all, thank you. I think from all of us, it's rare that members of the creative team that, we generally exist behind the curtain and behind the table and in rehearsal rooms. We don't always get a chance to do these kind of things, to talk about our processes and the intricacies of what we all do so well. So thank you for having us, first of all. To speak a little bit about that kind of a process, and for those who don't know, I am an orchestrator on these shows, and that's a very fancy word that just means I'm sort of the vessel for the composer of the music. I carry out their vision and expand upon it, and so what we really do is they write a song, and we see sort of the unrealized potential in the music that they write, and we use the palette of colors of whatever instruments we have at our disposal to enhance their work and add depth and emotion and resonance and time and function and place and nuance to it. And so we're just purely vessels for the work of these genius composers. In this case, the genius Pulitzer Prize-winning book, music, and lyricist Michael R. Jackson, who is incredible. The process of working with him is, similar to working with any composer of any material. You sit with them, you talk with them, you find out their musical influences, what makes them tick, you get inside what they like, what they don't like, their thoughts on the show, why they made the choices that they made, and then working with the available sounds that you have at your disposal, given things like budget, all the boring stuff. What colors do we have to really make your story and your piece of work thrive and be its fullest, greatest, most deep and personal experience in the theater? And so yeah, working with Michael is incredible. He's so smart. He's so knowledgeable. And it was very, very fun to sit with him and sort of pick apart his musical brain and say, okay, I think I understand what this show needs to really hit hard in the way that you want.
Thank you. And for Moulin Rouge, the musical, was the music and orchestration process of taking the original film,
right.
How is that similar or not to the stage version?
Right. Well, so contrary to basically everything I just said, those songs were already written.
Yeah.
And so we already had the source material in place. And in that situation, we were working with actually a team of orchestrators to all put our heads together and go, okay, what can we do to reimagine this and make it work within the context of this dramatic experience, as opposed to just standalone original pop song. So I worked with an incredible team led by the amazing Justin Levine, who took the songs on the piano and put them into their new context and strung them all together into these amazing medleys that underscored these dramatic on-stage moments. And so then we basically just said, we're gonna take what these original songs did successfully and just dial up the intensity to 11. More horns, more strings, more electronic drums. Let's go, it's Broadway, we're gonna do this. So it was sort of like, a free-for-all basically, which was a lot of fun.
That's so amazing. And now, Mia, your work on Annie Live earned you an Emmy Award this year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What was your creative process for designing the hair looks for televised performance like, and was that similar to designing a show for Broadway?
So it was, in a sense that, okay, let's see. So I started off in theater, flipped over to TV. The beautiful thing about Annie being a live show was it was sort of like combining the two worlds. So you have, and that was always one thing that I hated, that I always had to choose. It was like, okay, if you're doing, theater where my heart is, or if I go and I do film or TV, then it really separates me, right? And it's just a completely different process. And theater always feels like I'm in this sorority or fraternity, this like kind of family group thing. And film and TV was always a little cold to me. So
And we worked together on West Side Story on Broadway.
yes, we did. Yeah. But so the wonderful thing about the live show is that you need to treat it like theater in the sense that the wigs need to be pinned on a certain way, like the activity, it's because it's live, you don't get to redo it, so the wigs were set a little bit harder than I would if I were doing a movie that between every take I'm going in and I'm touching it up, so that dance that they do or whatever movements, it needs to hold up, and we don't get to touch it after that. So it's kind of like a combo pack, I got theater and TV all rolled into one. And it reminded me, I worked on Saturday Night Live for many seasons, and that was totally the combo pack. So so it was nice.
Right. Thank you. And now to Ian. For those of you who didn't get a chance to see Come From Away on Broadway this year, it was amazing. Have no fear. A filmed stage production is available to stream on Apple TV. And Ian, having worked on both versions, what was the process like moving from stage to screen?
So Come From Away is like an innately theatrical experience, and it's really, it's sort of the beauty, the stunt, the tour de force of seeing these 12 people play over 100 people in real time with very little scenery, very little costumes. In fact, our set was just 12 chairs. And I remember way back at the beginning when we were creating the show, the director being like, what if we just forget a set altogether other than something environmental and use 12 chairs? I'm sure by the time we got to filming this live capture, he was regretting that, because that is a very hard thing to keep alive, interesting, and sustaining across a video capture or something that is more filmic. But the good news was that when we went to work on the music for Come From Away, myself, the really talented songwriters, David Hine and Irene Sankoff, and our orchestrator, same job that Charlie was just talking about, named August Eriksmoen, our goal was to create a musical theater experience that functioned more like a film score than a set of songs, because these were such real-life characters. It's about Newfoundlanders who are very down-to-earth and sort of the last people that you would expect to sing their own big song all about their internal thoughts and feelings and desires, because they're just almost like Midwestern, down-to-earth, don't worry about me. And the other thing that's interesting in Newfoundland is that music, instrumental music, is part of their culture constantly. And almost everyone plays an instrument. They have these things called kitchen parties where no matter how much you know or don't know about music, you get together in someone's kitchen in the freezing cold winter and you make music. And so we thought, well, the opportunity here is less to dive into long, in-depth internal songs and more to use music as environment and music as storytelling. And it also became clear that the score, because we didn't have a set, the score and lighting were entirely responsible for telling us where we were, when we were, how it flowed, all of that. So with all that in mind, it was interesting to look at, okay, how do we make this filmic? And the good news is, we didn't actually change a lot of the score. We really recorded it almost as is. What we had to do, where on the stage show, everything is very free and we follow the pace of the action, we had to find a way to set everything, because when you're filming something, you need to be able to go from take to take, meaning each time you film it, and have everything be at the exact same time. So we no longer could let a scene take 32 bars and the next scene take 24 bars. They always had to be 32 bars. So there was a lot of work done to codify the timing, to figure out how to run the show in real time. And then, what I think the biggest task when we got to the sound mix and we got to the music edit was looking at where in a theater, we all can choose what do we want to look at any given moment, who do we want to follow, where in a film, the camera tells us that. And so it became about crafting what we had to really fit where the camera was from moment to moment, and that meant featuring certain instruments, that meant featuring certain ensemble members, featuring certain vocals, and then also finding a way to make the entire thing, though it looks like film, always feel like theater. Because we only had 4 days to film it. Most films happen across, 4 to 6 months. Yeah, 4 days. So it was, we basically had a ton of footage from many different angles, and the goal was, how do we sort of make it like I'm sitting in the audience and I'm gonna watch this, and then my attention's drawn here, and then how does the music and sound picture support that from moment to moment? So it's sort of funny, because we were adapting it for the camera and trying to make it feel as if you were sitting in the theater. But it was a great experience, so thank you.
Thank you. Yay! Everyone needs to watch it. Now, Daniel, you worked on both Ratatouille, the TikTok musical, and TikTok's For You page. What have you learned about bringing musical productions to the digital space?
That's a great question. And it's very funny because I don't think that we would be having this conversation without the pandemic, strangely enough.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Ratatouille, the TikTok musical, it started when a girl named Emily Jacobson posted a very short little video of her singing a song about Remy the Ratatouille. And I took that, did this full arrangement for like orchestra, a huge chorus and stuff, posted that, and then all of a sudden people were like, should this be a musical? And then it became a worldwide collaboration of people dreaming about the show that doesn't actually exist. And then with the grace of Disney, we were actually able to make a real version that we streamed on January 1st, 2021, which was really crazy, with like Titus Burgess and like just like the cast of your dreams. And we learned so much from that. In terms of the way that people are able to collaborate on platforms like TikTok, that we decided to sort of do it again, but in a more sustainable version. Because one of the coolest things about that, right, is this the audience, like not audience participation, because everyone was truly a part of it. Like everyone had their own version of the show. So I worked with TikTok to figure out how we could take that and not rely solely on virality of like using an IP, like very popular Disney IP. So that's how we got For You page, which was really crazy. We had 12 songwriters from around the world write a musical in less than 2 months. And then we had 8 or 9 days of rehearsal and did it live on Broadway for everyone, which was so exciting to put that out there. And I think we had over 10 million views over the re-airings that we've gotten. And part of that is the accessibility, right? And I think that theater is not great at that. Specifically being able to, if not everyone has the money and ability to go to the West End or New York and then spend more money on a Broadway show. And it's the idea that we know that works. Like I have nothing against a show that does a reading, or like authors want to write the show, and then it does a reading, and then you get producers and a director attached, and then you do another reading, and then you do an out-of-town tryout, and then it comes to Broadway. Sure, we all know that works, but there has to be other ways to create theater, and that's sort of what Ratatouille and For You page is all about. And I have no idea if we were doing it the right way, and we learned a lot, and we're hopeful that we're going to be able to do something else like that again. But it's more of exploring these ways of breaking down the walls and saying that the version of theater that we all know and love, that yes, works, there are other ways, and that those pieces of theater are just as important and just as real and just as artistic as anything else. And that's been really exciting then to see all these young songwriters that are on TikTok and on all these platforms that are starting their own shows. And I just love connecting with them. And I'm just so thankful to be a part of that community and hopeful that we only get taken more and more and more seriously.
Right. It was like a saving grace for us throughout the pandemic. So thank you. And then we were like, oh, wait, yeah, like as creatives, we can make music. We can write our own things and collaborate. So wonderful idea.
Well, it was not me. It was not. It was truly the community that I was just very lucky to then become the music supervisor and work with all those crazy people. I mean, wild.
Thank you. Let's move to Essen. So, hi, Essen. Hi. You had the opportunity to work for live concerts for projects like The Beauty and the Beast, The Little Mermaid, Coco, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Rocket Man, just to name a few. What was it like being a part of these productions?
So it was wild. I normally just like take part in musical roles. So I work as a composer, arranger, pianist, music copyist, whatever it is. But with those projects, like they already exist. So there wasn't really room for me to be involved in that capacity. But I love Disney. So I was like, sign me up. I'll do whatever you need. So Di Cappella, you saw a little bit about it. It's the a cappella group that sings Disney repertoire. They were opening up for Beauty and the Beast. So through them, I kind of got involved. And I became the assistant for the associate producer. And what that meant was I got to be in meetings about like costume, hair design, choreography rehearsals, just like executive producers meeting or like meetings with Disney, or I don't know how many of you know about Hollywood Bowl, but it's this like 17,000 people giant concert place. So we have a big arc on which we can also kind of reflect more art. So like getting to see all these different things that I normally don't get to see, it was really, really interesting. And because they knew I was involved with music, I also got to do music-related tasks, which is being a score reader. So what happens in these shows is they reflect the movie on the giant screen, but they also have side screens where they show the singers who actually come sing the songs. And like Zoe Deschanel was Belle, which is so cool. Rebel Wilson was involved, and like so many celebrities, Eva Longoria. So again, just like being in that environment and like getting to see how people function under such pressure, because the backstage, it's like dozens of people and you can't even walk properly. So like everything has to be like timed. And how I was involved in Little Mermaid, so something crazy happened. Because I know music, I told you the side screens always show the singers or the orchestra. So someone needs to read the score and make sure that the cameras are showing the right people at the right time, whether it's the soloists on the orchestra or like the singers. So I had to be like reading it 10 bars in advance or like 12 bars in advance, which is wild. Like,
Sorry, I'm like stressed. I just like, that's scary.
We're not trained to do it, and I'm not a native speaker. So like reading it 12 bars in advance and like letting the cameraman be like, okay, now you like focus on horn. Now like violin coming up, camera 5, like be ready. Wow. And I'm not a native speaker, so it was like probably the most, not difficult because I enjoyed it so much, but I don't remember ever being under such pressure before. Wow. So that was interesting. And with all the other shows, like for example, Rocketman, as you know, it's about Elton John. And this was a surprise for the audience, but Elton John came and sang at the end of the concert, so I was technically involved with the production that had Elton John. So like saying yes and figuring things out later, that like really served.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience.
Yeah.
So now this is for everyone, and Daniel, you kind of touched on this, but I'll continue with Essen. Historically, theater has almost always been something only a few had the privilege of experiencing. In recent years, we've been lucky to see accessibility progress through the greater good with discounted tickets at the TKTS booth, recorded productions like Come From Away available for streaming, musicals adapted for TV like Annie Live, and musicals really pushing the boundaries by being available on social media platforms like TikTok's For You page. All of these productions allow a wider audience to experience musicals in traditional and new ways. What do you think about this direction, and how can we keep doing this to make sure that theater becomes more accessible? And Essen, I'd love to start with you since you're working directly with the next generation of musical creatives as the assistant chair of Berklee College Music's Screen and Scoring Department.
There are so many different paths that you can take in theater. Like you could be songwriter, composer, arranger, orchestrator, take part in behind the scenes and create sets, or like do lighting. And all of these, like we don't just teach it in a way that you learn about it in a classroom, but we teach it in a way that you actually like learn by experiencing it. So we have a minor called musical theater writing, where you can do a lyricist route or like a composer route. We actually merged with Boston Conservatory, so we have this amazing musical theater program that's also geared towards actresses and actors. We do two very fun things, which are like basically one of my favorite things at school. One of them is called Curtain Up, and it's a big concert that's, again, like shown in a 1,200 people auditorium kind place, and it only consists of original musical theater songs written by Berkeley students, conducted by Berkeley students, arranged by Berkeley students, light design and everything. All of it is completely done by Berkeley students. So that's incredible for them, and it's open for everyone, basically. You just need to apply. And also, we have a 48-hour musical theater festival. It's kind of similar to how you guys created the TikTok thing, in the sense that it's like so rushed and like there's a deadline and you have to create under that pressure. So we basically like make students really do it and learn it that way. And because it's called like Broadway to Hollywood, I also want to mention the screen scoring department. So we have 2 majors. One of them is called film and media scoring, and the other one is called game and interactive media scoring. And we, again, create opportunities where students can explore. So when they write film music for a scene from a film that already exists or from like a student film, they do get to record it with a student orchestra and like go up on the podium and record it live with players. And sometimes they also get to perform it in concerts. So just like creating all these different opportunities for them to actually do it before they can move on with their careers.
Right, in school, and it's all a learning process, and it's a safe environment, and that's so great. Thank you. Anyone else would like to, to speak on this?
You know, maybe you can help me out here a little bit, but I think I think the biggest problem with what you're saying, which is getting this piece of art out to as many people as we can. I mean, inherently, theater, by its very nature, is a local art form, right? We're all in one place, we do a thing, we're together. And we've just started opening up these new platforms. The theater has just started to be like, wait a minute, what about the internet, you guys? What about that?
Right.
That's cool. Maybe we should look into this internet thing. They're so behind the game technologically in so many ways. They move so slow, and it's because the people who are in charge of deciding what the rules are about what we are allowed to do with this art form as far as broadcasting it and putting it places and uploading it and putting it on platforms and letting people stream it or watch it or whatever, they're so inflexible. And I'm a very pro-union guy. I'm a member of a union. I'm a member of the musicians union. I think unions are incredibly important for us as creatives and workers to band together and have fair practices. And this is something that I think is very important and very useful when it is done well and when it's done correctly and when it's done equitably. It is not done that way most of the time, and I think we need to get people from across all backgrounds and upbringings and opinions and thoughts and life experiences in the positions in these unions and in these decision-making rooms at the top of it, the people who produce the theater and decide what the fate of these shows are, who are more aware and more understanding about what our current ability is to broadcast this medium and to whom to help foster the decision to allow more people to be able to access this material. You know, Broadway should not just be a luxury commodity. And as it stands right now, the people whose decision it is to keep it that way, they're not going to necessarily change their minds. And so we need people at the top who can influence those decisions before we're able to even do that. But we all want to be able to do that, and I think the more people who campaign for that and the more people who voice their opinions in the great abyss of the internet to say this is something that we really want, there's support for that out there.
But very quickly, when I realized that, like with opera and how you have to mature your voice to sing certain songs, and how you could ruin your voice from trying to sing something that you hadn't elevated to, right? And how you practice this and practice it, and why someone who was playing a 9-year-old child might be 75 years old because the voice was so high as a child, and only that person who had worked that long to get their voice to a place where they could sing this 3 times in the week. You know, it was like I had just developed this respect for this art form and how beautiful in these voices. And I think about the Met struggling, I heard this, struggling financially, and I'm thinking to myself, like, how is that possible? When you have this amazing acoustic house, when you have this, I went to see Turandot and I cried when the set opened up for the second act. It was so beautiful. And it's like, Because people don't know anything about this. That's why, right? Because this art form is being protected for some reason, and it's not being put out. And because of that, that's why you struggle, right? Because had I known about opera, who knows? You know what I mean? As a kid, like, it would have been in my everyday. It would have been, you know. So it's like, that's the painful part about it, is that people feel like things will last forever, but anything could go, you know? And that's what I mean about evolution is inevitable, and anything that resists it will become extinct, no matter how large or how small. And that's something we all have to start to hold people accountable for, right? Like, it makes me want to protest in front of the Met. Like, why are you not in public schools? You have the funding.
Yeah.
You
That's
know?
true. That's it. That's it.
This question is also for everyone, but the question is for the audience members in attendance. What would be the best piece of advice that you could give them today in a few words? And we'll start with you, Charlie.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, you know, the best piece of advice for anybody out there who wants to be a part of musical theater, is that sort of the crux of this question, would you say? Anybody out there, I think, who, you know, wants a career in musical theater, and I can only speak musically, so I'm just gonna answer the question musically, because that's what I do. But if there's one thing that I've learned, and one thing that has been of great success for me, and one thing that I found to be really helpful is just diversifying yourself and your skill set as much as possible. If there are any musicians out there who are looking for a career in theater, learn as much as you can about as many different kinds of music and styles and genres and cultures as you can, and bring that into your vocabulary as a human being. If you play an instrument, play some other instruments. You know, if you use one piece of computer software, use a couple. Diversifying yourself and your skill set, and opening up your mind to other various parameters of your musical personality, I think, is the key to making you a well-rounded person, a well-rounded musician, and just sort of a general Swiss Army knife of skill that people will want to have around them.
Thank you. I guess we'll go down the line.
All right. I totally agree. I think education, you know, I think as far as theater goes, there are several internships that exist. I say look those up. Summer stock theater is always great, especially, you know, if you want to go into like costumes or hair or those types of things, they're always looking for people. And that is, you know, Santa Fe Opera, a lot of the opera houses around the country, they take interns, they take apprenticeship programs. And I think that going in that route of, you know, being an apprentice and working under someone that's where you need to be is always a good place to start.
And I think, speaking musically and universally, I think really devoting time to fall in love with, discover, and become obsessed with the thing you want to do. I think if it's a musician, people who actually love music and listen to music and know music, like Charlie was saying, across all genres, I think that leading with the heart and then following up with the discipline is like the direction that I would recommend to anyone, because I really think you have to love it. Someone had said to me, you know, I think you all heard this, that like, if you can do anything else, go do it, because it's going to be so hard to do the thing you want to do. But if you can't, that's because you love it so much and you're so committed to doing it, then that means becoming a student and just appreciator of everything that's out there, and that will give you diversity of tone and color and every single detail you might want to have in your toolkit.
Although I do want to jump on that line, which I have heard before, that, you know, I know there are a number of people that I've met in the theater who got into the theater saying, I'm going to be a singer, I'm going to compose, I'm going to play an instrument, whatever it might be. Life takes you one way or another, but they're still so passionate about the theater and they have that education. And that is equally as important in the logistical side of making theater happen. You know, just because you're not up there singing, you still need to be passionate about theater to be the general manager in a theater office producing these shows, knowing about what those actors are going through so you can take care of them. There's so many other jobs within the theater besides just playing and performing that require the knowledge of doing those things while being the ones to make those shows happen. So that also is very important.
Yeah, no, and it makes all the difference. I think
It
my
really does.
favorite GMs, stage managers, company managers have lived it.
They've lived it.
And love it. And they also were like, I could do this on stage, but I actually have some superpowers that are best used backstage or being in charge of all of us. And that's just, there's nothing
They're organized
more
and they
wonderful
like
than that.
spreadsheets, unlike me,
Google Docs are life.
Yeah,
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 exactly.
they love them.
Thank you.
I guess my turn. So if you're really passionate about something and you have a dream or a goal, like don't wait for that thing to come to you and take the appropriate steps for you to get there. And I think like I have a very great example of this in my career. As I told you, I'm obsessed with Disney. So what did I do before graduation? I wanted to visit LA to see if it would be a right fit for me. And before I did the visit, I found 50 Disney executives on LinkedIn. I didn't have professional LinkedIn, so I didn't have a way to contact them through LinkedIn. So I stalked every single one of them on Facebook, and I messaged all of them. And then only 2 of them wrote back. And it was nice, like they gave me a tour and they were super kind, but like nothing came out of it in terms of like a job opportunity or an internship. But a year and a half later, after I moved to LA, I was working as a composer's assistant at Bleeding Fingers, which is like an extension of Hans Zimmer's company. And one day I got this random Facebook message like, hey, do you do a cappella? And I'm like, who's this weirdo? So I scroll up, it's like one of the Disney executives that I reached out to. And he's like, I need a music assistant by tomorrow. Can you do anything with a cappella? Wow. And at Berklee College of Music, I used to be the accompanist of their soundtrack choir. We call it Odire. So I was like, oh yeah, like I arranged for them, I played with them, I sang as an alto, I know anything a cappella, sign me up. Wow. So just because I planted that seed, like any Disney opportunity I've gotten ever since was thanks to those stupid Facebook messages, which are not stupid. And I now call that person who got back to me my fairy godfather, because that's what he is. So basically, like don't wait to feel ready. Like if you have the drive in you, you're gonna figure it out somehow. Because like after graduation, we're generally like, oh, like I'm not perfect. Let me wait to finish this one project so that I'm cooler before I reach out to this X person. Like that's so wrong. You need to really like plant seeds at all times. So I think that's my long.
Yes. I love that. It's like a hustle.
I'm going to steal this from a friend of mine, a New York Times bestselling author, Jodi Picoult. And she always says, and this really applies to writers, but I think it applies to everyone, and it's you can't edit a blank page. And I think if you want to write. Your first songs are not going to be good. I have a vault of terrible songs no one will ever hear, but the only reason I can write the way I do now is because I did that, and I learned what worked. These things are working, these things don't work. Same thing if you want to write novels. If you want to be an orchestrator, just pick a song and orchestrate it. Again, it's not going to be good, but that's okay, because you'll learn what did work. And in any single thing in your life, you cannot edit a blank page. So like stop sitting, waiting for those opportunities to come, just do it. And the worst thing that can happen is you have a song, you have a version of anything you want, and from there, you can see what are my next steps? What are the next things I'm going to be able to do now that I have learned that? But until you take that first step, you can't do anything. So you can't edit a blank page.
Yeah, that is amazing, and that is great news. You have to go ahead and make those opportunities like happen for yourself, because no one else is going to do that for you. Thank you. I know that we're kind of short on time. Oh, we're good? We're good? Okay, let's keep going. So, Mia, the next question is for you. I know that you are busy and you're working on many different projects that have come out or that are going to come out. But you're now working on K-pop, which is a brand new original musical that starts previews in 1 week. Woo, 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 woo. Without revealing too much, can you give us a little something about your work in the musical?
Yeah, it is. Let's see. I mean, everybody loves K-pop right now, right?
Yeah.
So you can't really go wrong. They've done such a fantastic job of really kind of honoring the art form and allowing the cast to have a lot of input. And all I would say is it's like coming to a really good concert. That's what it is. A great concert.
Yes.
Word.
Thank you. And speaking of musicals, Ian, ahead of its theatrical premiere tomorrow, what can you tell us about the music of the film Lyle Lyle Crocodile starring Shawn Mendes? I understand you have another project too, Spirited, premiering in November. Could you talk about that as well?
Yeah. So Lyle Lyle Crocodile, based on the Bernard Weber stories. Some people grew up on them, some people never heard of them. I was one of the people that had like a faint memory of them. Like I think I must have read them at some point. And it's really sweet. And it's something that kids and adults will like. The whole premise is that there is this crocodile who can sing, and he's discovered as like a young crocodile, and is a little taken advantage of by sort of a P.T. Barnum like showman, but this guy is a complete fraud. And Lyle's put on stage as a baby in front of thousands of people, has stage fright, and everyone starts laughing at him and yelling at him, and he's just forever frozen. He ends up being sort of left behind in this attic, and he grows huge. And he's discovered by this family that moves in that has a son that is also completely sort of frozen because he's been parented in an incredibly limiting way, and school's not going well for him. There's just a lot of obstacles, and he discovers this wild, dangerous creature living in their attic. And there's many things that happen, but they essentially end up with all these adventures together and help each other and heal each other. But the fun thing about Lyle is that the only way he can communicate is through song. Like, he can't talk, but he grew up listening to all these songs because when he was left by his owner in the attic forever, he left him with, it's not specific, but what looks like an iPod or something. And he just has this whole songbook in his head, and his way of connecting with people and essentially healing every family member is through song. So we hired Shawn Mendes to be Lyle Lyle Crocodile's voice, and the songs were written by Benj Pasek, Justin Paul, and then 3 newer writers. And this is something to go back to accessibility, which I'd really loved, is these were 3 writers that have incredible potential and are doing exciting things, but probably wouldn't be hired to write a major motion picture today. And so they have come on board with Benj and Justin, and it's been a 5-person writing team on all these songs. And the songs are in various genres, but all really trying to be in sort of the modern pop accessible place, because the goal is that young people, older people will watch this and suddenly fall in love with these nostalgic, sort of fanciful stories through a more modern music vernacular. And it's just, I'm really excited about it. Spirited will be coming out in November. It stars Will Ferrell, Ryan Reynolds, and Octavia Spencer, and it is a very loose, turned over on its head adaptation of A Christmas Carol, in which Ryan Reynolds is sort of the Scrooge type, and Will is the ghost of Christmas Present, who is sort of, there's some reminiscent of some of his elf moments, but he is charged with basically saving Ryan Reynolds, who has no interest in being saved. And it's this really fun, fantastical, over-the-top musical theater sort of performance version of the Christmas Carol story. It has 14 music cues. It's the hugest thing I've ever done. Highlights were we had 100-piece orchestra recording at Air Studios. We had a huge, incredible ensemble. And then I just really loved working. A lot of what I do ends up being the music direction part too. So working with Ryan and Will and Octavia and helping them find their voices and really do all the amazing things they do on camera with dialogue, with song. It also has a ton of tap dancing because there's this incredible woman named Chloe Arnold. All over the nation, she brings together people from underprivileged houses or just people really passionate about dance, and does something that feels a lot more like step and a lot less like old school tap dancing, and they are all over the film. So
That's
it's
so
exciting.
amazing. Can't wait to see them both. And last but not least, we can't forget to mention your debut single, Daniel, that you wrote with Jacob Ryan Smith, In My Head. Tell us about the song, please.
Yeah, I just released a song 2 weeks ago with a buddy of mine, Jake Ryan Smith, who you went to school with.
Yeah.
And I actually think we didn't plan this, but it's a perfect example of what I said of you can't edit a blank page, where a lot of times Jake and I will get together, have like one too many adult beverages, and just like start improvising songs. And normally these are terrible, like just awful. But there's this one where I was seeing this guy and I was like a little confused about it because like I was definitely like about it, but I didn't know what was going on there. So we were like singing and I said like, well, what if this is in my head? And like sang that in a chorus. And we were like, wait, we really like that. So we like had our voice memo, got together the next day, wrote it. We're like, this is a great song. What do we do with it? Should we write a show about it? We're like, why don't we just like put it out into the world? What's the worst thing that could happen? So we called on a couple of our friends, actually August, who orchestrated for Come From Away, produced it, and then our friends Joe Serafini and Andrew Barth Feldman from High School Musical, the series, sang for us, and we released it, and it was just really fun to like put it out in the world. And we were like, you spent way too much money, so stream it everywhere. I get like a tenth of a penny every time you do. But it was just really fun to be like, you know what? We want to put art out into the world. And it's also really exciting because it's a queer story. And one of the things that I'm really passionate about is telling queer stories that are not queer tragedies. I think we all have enough of those. Like, I love them, obviously, but like, I just don't need another story about someone struggling to come out of the closet. So it was really fun to write like a song for two boys who don't really know what's going on and are just really into each other, and like just an innocent story that anyone can relate to, but to see it as a queer story was also really, really, really exciting. And to see the reception as well, where like I'm an old man now, and I wish that I had like had this when I was in high school, and it's been fun to see a lot of like the students that I worked with and a lot of the kids on TikTok and stuff who are like really into that and excited to see themselves in that song in a way I wish I could have.
Oh my gosh.
In my head,
An old
on
man.
all streaming platforms.
You're still young, though. You're young.
Oh, please. I thank you.
Okay, so I'm scoring a feature film. It's called Touchy Feely, and it's directed by Marcelo Tisson. And I'm also writing music on a very cute animated series for Netflix. It's inspired by a book series called Princesses Wear Pants, but the show will be called Princess Power. And I don't really do the songs. I'm also like involved with the background instrumental music, but that's been really fun.
I like how casually you trap. So I'm writing music for a motion picture. Like, work, you better. Come on.
Thank you, I'm trying. Oh, also, I arranged for a zombie musical that was supposed to be at Hollywood Fringe Festival, and then, thank you, pandemic, it never happened.
Ooh.
So we're trying to like find a place for it. It was once called A Heartbeat Away. Then they changed the name to Losing Your Humanity. I don't know like what it's gonna be called when it's like actually completely done, but I have that one in the works. Cool. So yeah, fun
Amazing.
stuff.
I'm currently the orchestrator on Some Like It Hot, the musical, which is coming in. Yeah, we're very excited about that. It should be a lot of fun. I'm co-orchestrating it with a really great friend of mine, Brian Carter, and that starts previews November 1st, so that'll be very cool. You know, a couple other musicals here and there. I'm orchestrating a production of Guys and Dolls in London in the spring. The thing I'm really personally most excited about is, you know, this goes away from my musical theater career, and some people know this about me and some people don't, but I have this 33-piece jazz orchestra dedicated to video game music called the 8-Bit Big Band, which, okay, some people have heard of here. Okay, that's really cool. And we're currently working on our 4th album, so, you know, we're about, yeah, it's going to be great. Got some live shows coming up. If you're here in New York on January 9th, please come join us at the Town Hall. It's going to be, December 9th. December 9th at the Town Hall. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a party. You know, we got a couple out-of-town dates, Boston, you know, DC. We're playing at MagFest. Has anybody been to MagFest? And do you know about MagFest, another convention? No? Okay, we're playing there. It's a video game convention in DC. Yeah, you know, we're about 75% done with that album, so I'm hoping to have that out soon. And yeah, you know, just making music.
Awesome.
Wow.
Wait, let's advertise the Boston one too. If
Oh,
New
of
York
course.
is sold out,
Of
you
course,
know.
Boston. Yeah, right. We're also playing in Boston on December 3rd at the Berkeley Performance Center. Back to Berkeley. So
Yes.
if you're from Boston, you can come to that as well.
Well, I would just like to say, if that's our last question, could we give it up for Lorna, who's been
Oh my
doing
God.
such an amazing job?
Thank you.
And also, I'm going to take over as asking questions.
Okay.
You're about to be Juliet in Anne Juliet, which I'm deeply obsessed with.
Come on.
If you haven't streamed it, it's not her, but I can't wait to get the illegal bootleg of her singing it that I'll put on my iPhone. Can you tell us about it? Like, how excited are you? Like, what's going on?
I'm
You start
so
rehearsing
excited.
tonight?
We just finished our run in Toronto, and we were there for 2.5 months, and it was amazing. People loved it, and they came and talked to us after the show. They're like, I'm bringing my parents, I'm bringing my sister, they're bringing everyone. It was just it was so much fun, and I'm so excited to get to start rehearsals in 4 days, and then start previews at the end of the month on October 28th. Yeah, I'm really excited. Broadway is back.
Okay, and I have to ask because I'm obsessed
Yes.
with the album. What is your favorite song like in the show, and then what's your favorite to sing?
Actually, I think it's the same, Roar. It has to be Roar, because it's her final song, where she stands up for herself, and she finds her voice, and just she looks back at all of the people who have helped her in the past, but she puts herself first, and she really she gets to tell her own story. So yes,
Want to serenade us a little bit?
Yeah, give us 16 bars. No,
Oh my God.
Wow.
I have the track ready. Let's play it.
Oh, actually, yes, the Roar is available on all streaming platforms.
There
So
it is.
if you
That's
want to
nice.
hear,
Professional.
yes, the
Good save.
professional, the Broadway version, then check it out. And do we have time for questions now? Oh, okay, two questions. Does anyone have any?
So I've always wanted to act, but I'm not trained in it or anything. But I music directed Little Shop of Horrors in a community theater in LA. And I was like, hey, I want to act in this. Like, I don't care in what capacity. And like, I didn't know the script. I knew the music, but I didn't know the script. So there was a rehearsal. They're like, we're short of Lady of the Night. Does anyone want to be Lady of the Night? And I thought it was like so honorable. I was like, yes, I want to be the Lady of the Night. And then I was like looking for hoop earrings, like the biggest high heels ever, flirting with homeless men on stage. It was great. So I don't know, like if there's any way for you to maybe put that into your contract, though you can't really be off stage when you're doing lights, so that's a little problematic. But I think you can find a way.
But yeah, or outside of the theater that you work in, right?
Yeah, and I would say I always wanted to be an actor, and then I went to college. I started with an education degree, and then ended up adding composition. But even now, I love performing. I do love acting, and I'm very lucky. Like I get to do it sometimes at like a 54 Below show or something. But it's normally when I'm presenting my songs. But it really was the thing of I looked around and realized that there are so many incredible, like outstanding, brilliant, life-changing actors and singers, and I think I'm really good, but like I think that I am an exceptional writer, so I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. And it's the same thing where I often work with lyricists. It's very rare I write lyrics, and it's the same thing where I think I write good lyrics, but I want exceptional lyrics for exceptional music, and I also love the collaboration. Like I just don't think it's as fun. Like I like working with a bunch of other people, so that but also like perform. Like I still like finding ways to be able to do it. But I think it was that of like, what do I feel the singularly best at? That's what made me change.
The thing is that's great about what you do now though is I have never acted. I didn't totally know I was going to fall into theater before I did, and now looking back on it, I honestly wish I had some acting training just to like see that side of it dramaturgically and understand what the actors. And now I've like had to come at it through the lens of an outsider to say, okay, this is how they're feeling, and I'm going to respond to it with my orchestrating like this. But what's cool about you starting with acting and moving into a design thing is you do innately understand the nature of a scene and what it needs technically to support the drama of the of the moment, and that is like a huge insight. And so I kind of wish like almost all creative team members could have a little bit of acting training so they understand that innately, and I think that's really cool that you can do that. Yeah.
And I love that because I think that I started as an actor for like 2 years, and then like when I was 10, and then I remember like seeing someone doing the job that I wanted to do, which was the music director, the arranger, the conductor, and I knew that's what I wanted to do, but I kept studying acting, and I actually studied a lot of other things too for what Charlie's saying is I think the more awareness we have of what everybody else is doing, the better we end up being at our jobs. But I also really agree with Daniel that like a lot of people are like, Ian, will you orchestrate something? And I'm like, no. It's like I could, but like I want to work with Charlie because like that he's a specialist at that. And I, why would we not? This is what we do is collaboration. It depends on collaboration. Yes, there are a few that do it all themselves, but those are few and far between. And the most exciting things happen in the room with other people, bringing all of their own skills and passions to the table.
And that's the beauty of theater, collaboration. And with that, that is all that we have time for today, folks. So I want to give a huge thank you to our panelists, Charlie, Mia, Ian, Essen, and Daniel. And thank you for sharing your insights and amazing work that you do. Also, thank you to Impact 24 PR and New York Comic Con for putting this panel together. And thank you all for watching.
And thank you, Lourdes.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.